Hurricane season is still ongoing, and as was seen last week, anything can happen at any time. Tropical Storm Grace only lingered for a day, but we all saw the extent of the damage caused by the force of the wind and the water. We here at the GIS are urging all Jamaicans to heed the warnings and all relevant information whenever they are sent out by the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. It is imperative that you do so in order to stay safe. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Sandra Johnson. Stay tuned as we have an informative show lined up just for you.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
Even though a trough is likely for the island next week, tomorrow will be perfect for beachgoers. So expect bright sunshine and clear skies all day.
Yeah, right. Like how yesterday, Una tell me say it got bright and pretty. I wash my clothes and a pure rainfall. I'll know them not dry.
And today, we want to hear from you, our viewers. So call us now to get your weather questions answered.
Yeah, man, me go now call.
And we have a call online now. What is your question?
How comes you tell me that today I got bright and pretty and a pure rain fall in my community?
It's not as simple as you might think to predict weather with full accuracy. To provide a forecast, we measure and assess current atmospheric conditions over various areas and compare that to previous observations. This allows us to have a general idea of what conditions to expect in a particular area. Rainfall, however, can be difficult to forecast, especially for small areas. From our analyses and observations, we can know that conditions will be ideal for rainfall, and we have a good idea of the general region where rain is likely, but it is sometimes difficult to give that precise location.
Oh, so you're saying even though you can't tell me it will rain in my town, you can't necessarily tell me it will rain in my little district?
You've got it.
Oh, wait, I have another question. But you're not talking about one system that will affect the island. Where next week? You think it's so early we need to know about that?
When it comes to telling the public about severe weather, the nature of the system determines how soon we start to share that information. For systems like tropical wave or a trough that may produce severe weather, advisories are issued 2 to 3 days before a system is forecasted to affect our area. For tropical cyclones such as hurricanes, advisories are issued once a system is expected to be formed within 48 hours, even if it will not affect Jamaica.
You know what else me always want to know? The Met Office and ADPEM, them do the same thing?
No. The Met Service is responsible for monitoring the weather conditions over the island and territorial waters and issuing reliable and timely weather services. ADPEM, which stands for the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, is responsible for maintaining a state of national preparedness for all types of disasters. When the system that could cause a disaster is a weather phenomenon, the Met Service monitors the progress to forecast and to determine the extent of the weather conditions.
You know, I never know there's so much things the Met Service do, and that weather forecasting is so complicated.
Yes, it is. And if you have more questions in the future, please feel free to contact the Met Service.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When your turn comes for the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is absolutely important. For those who have hesitancy and fear, and all of that is legitimate, it's healthy. But I believe we have seen the vaccine at work. We know what the risks are. There are no risk-less activities in life. We urge you to participate in the national program and get vaccinated.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Up next on Get the Facts, we look into the transformation of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, along with the various benefits being made available to its members. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Get the Facts. This is the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. I'm sitting in for Enthros Campbell. Today we'll be talking about the transformation taking place at the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities and the various benefits or assistance available to persons who sign up with the entity. For this discussion, we're going to be getting the facts from the Executive Director of the JCPD, that's Dr. Christine Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's jump right in to get the facts. Let's begin by telling our viewers what the JCPD does. What's its mandate?
Okay, so the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities is a department of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security,
Right.
and it has responsibility for policy and program implementation for persons with disabilities right across the island.
Okay. So generally the umbrella or the head of policy that directs how persons with disabilities, the access they have. Am I on the right track?
You are on the right track.
Wonderful, wonderful. So a big part of our conversation today is about the transformation that's happening at the JCPD.
Right.
What's that about?
So the Disabilities Act was passed in the Parliament in 2014. And that process or that act mandates that there is established a Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities
Right.
to ensure the inclusion of persons with disabilities, to ensure that their rights are upheld and to ensure that their dignity are upheld by society.
By all society?
By all of society.
Workplace,
education, everywhere,
okay,
life. And so the current Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities wouldn't have had the capacity to ensure that the implementation of the Disabilities Act, and so the Disabilities Act establishes this body corporate, which will be an independent government body that can sue and can be sued as it pertains to persons with disabilities. And so this entity will ensure when the minister states its effective date, that the rights of persons with disabilities are upheld in all areas, in all facets of society.
So if I'm getting this right, no, it is a more autonomous body. It has...
No, it is a department of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
It is moving towards...
Moving towards being an autonomous body.
Understood.
Right. So currently we facilitate the educational, social and economic development of persons with disabilities through our social workers across the island, where we seek to identify and register persons with disabilities first and foremost. We also do sensitization, public awareness programs to ensure that society understands how to deal with persons with disabilities, know who they are, know that they are, part of society. They are human beings just like everyone else, and they should be allowed to participate in society as independently as others. Yes. So.
All right. So that sounds like a new day is dawning.
It is. A new day is dawning because not only will we facilitate support and for the welfare of persons with disabilities, but we will ensure their rights. And I think that will be a totally new day for persons with disabilities and the society in general.
So as we move towards this new status of the JCPD, are there any major plans that we can look forward to? Or that is the major plan?
Well, definitely. For the first time, there will also be established a Disabilities Rights Tribunal. So this tribunal will hear and adjudicate matters of discrimination against persons with disabilities, just to ensure that they are allowed. Because if you recognize right now, persons with disabilities have challenges accessing education, accessing employment, accessing even going into a building, sometimes because of the way it has been constructed. Persons have difficulty just with transportation.
Right.
And so the Disabilities Act mentions 7 clear areas that persons with disabilities must have their fundamental rights and freedoms in those areas.
If I can interject here, are we talking about the Act different from the codes of practice?
Well, the Disabilities Act mandates that the JCPD create codes of practice. And these codes of practice are practical guidelines to society to help persons know exactly how do you do this inclusion stuff. So the code of practice for employment will outline how do you go about employing a person with a disability from the advertisement stage straight to retirement? What are the things that are involved? Similarly for education and training, what is included or what should be included in allowing a child to enter school and to participate and to take their exams with the different assistive devices and supports that they will require straight until they leave.
So it won't, it no longer, I'm hearing two things and I'm very excited about these two things. Number one, there'll be somewhere that if I am a disabled person, I can go here to have a voice.
Indeed.
And number two, the society won't need to guess how employment happens, how access happens. There's a code of practice. Doc, can I call you Doc?
Sure.
Doc, we're going to take a break right now. We are talking to Dr. Christine Hendricks from the JCPD. She's the executive director, and we're going to continue getting the facts after this short break. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm saying to every single Jamaican, you will decide how this pandemic ends. If you wear your mask, if you maintain the physical distance, and if you decide to take the vaccines when it is your time, the pandemic will end. But if in frustration or just ignorance, we do not take responsibility, then the pandemic could end badly, including the loss of more lives.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're talking with Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Christine Hendricks. We pick up the conversation with the Council's efforts to provide opportunities and empower persons with disabilities. But Doc, before the break, we were discussing the codes.
Right.
So if you can just give us a bit more information on these codes of practice.
Okay, so we were saying that the codes of practice are practical guidelines to society on how persons with disabilities can be included in the different areas that speaks to their rights, really. And so far we have completed 3 codes of practice. The code of practice for employment, the code of practice for education and training, the code of practice for health care and health facilities. And for this year, we'll be looking at the code of practice for public passenger vehicles, just to ensure that persons with disabilities have access to transportation, which is essential for daily life.
True.
Living, yes.
Absolutely. All right. So that is, if you're just joining us, I hope you weren't just joining us, but we have been talking about the JCPD and its transformation. And one of the things that we've mentioned so far is it's becoming an entity on its own.
Right. It's becoming a body corporate, which is an independent public body.
Right. And we've also mentioned that there are benefits for those that sign up with the body.
Right.
Now, let's talk about 2 of the benefits, assistive devices, and then we can talk about grants. But let's start with assistive devices.
Okay, so even as a department, the JCPD provides assistive devices to persons with disabilities. Well, support to help them to provide that for themselves. So the JCPD will provide, once persons are registered, provide assistance, financial assistance for them to purchase varying assistive devices to help their independence. So for example, persons who are deaf can, once they are registered with the JCPD, apply for a grant to help them to purchase a hearing aid. For someone who needs a wheelchair to be their legs, we can assist them to purchase that wheelchair. or we can provide that wheelchair from those that we have, because we do have a stack of wheelchairs. But then there are persons who need special wheelchairs, specialized based on their disability. We also provide white canes to persons who are blind and visually impaired, and whatever other device persons would need. Once they are registered, they can apply to purchase. Now, the JCPD provides grants on 2 levels. There's a lower end of up to a maximum of $30,000 that they can get to help them to make that purchase.
Right.
Or on the higher end, there's $250,000 to help them to make that purchase.
What distinguishes between the 2 levels?
It depends on the cost. It actually depends on the cost. So it depends on what the individual needs and the cost for the item.
So up to a certain item, up to a certain value, you would be eligible for one grant or the other? Right.
Persons, it depends. For persons who are applying for the $250,000 grant, that grant goes to an external committee to be vetted, for the case to be brought to the committee and for a decision to be made. For the $30,000, it does go to a committee, but that's an internal committee to the JCPD that reviews those applications and provides that support.
Understood.
Of course, there are criteria for each of the benefits.
Well, that brings up an interesting question in my mind. You mentioned register. How do people register?
The registration process is twofold. There is a medical report that has to be completed, and that verifies that the individual does have a disability.
Okay.
Upon that verification, an application for registration form is completed, and the application form just tells you basic information about the individual, and that would include the name of their caregiver or next of kin. That would be the person named to conduct business on behalf of children or an adult, depending on whether or not they can manage on their own or if they require support. We also collect information about their disability and what are the supports that they would require to ensure their independence in society, and perhaps what other benefits they are getting, so that we are aware of where, what's happening. Yes. With the individual.
Understood. Doc, we are running out of time, but I want us to squeeze in just at the tail end as we get the facts. Is there support for economic empowerment?
Indeed, and similarly to the assistive aid, there are 2 levels, maximum of $30,000 and a maximum of $150,000. So these grants are for persons who are business-minded. So if they want to start a mini business, sell 2-bag juice and have a little stall, up to $30,000. And for persons who may want to open a grocery shop, raise some chickens, there is the $150,000.
And this is a one-time grant?
Persons can access the economic empowerment grant once every 3 years, depending on what is happening. It's not automatic, but if persons want to expand at the end of 3 years, or they have fallen on hard times like what COVID has done, persons can apply and get that support.
I understand. Everyone, you have been watching Get the Facts. Listen, the government is creating inclusion, and where every one of us, regardless of our ability, has a sense of belonging, a sense of, you can make life, you can work, you can raise families and do business. That's Vision 2030.
Indeed.
So we would love to talk more, but this is where we have to stop, Doc. And for more information, you can visit the JCPD's website, and let me make sure that I get the website URL correct. It's jcpdja.gov.
jcpdja.com.
It's .com.
www.jcpdja.com.
All right, so not gov.jm, not yet. Right now it is .com. So jcpdja.com. That you can visit there to learn more about everything that we've spoken about on Get the Facts today. Until next time, when Get the Facts brings you, as always, more information. I'm Theodore Henry, sitting in for Enthros Campbell. We've had with us Dr. Christine Hendricks of the JCPD, Executive Director. Thanks for watching. Do take care.
properly carry out a hand rub, apply a palmful of the product in your cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub your hands palm to palm. Rub your right palm over the back of your left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub your hands palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotationally rub backwards and forwards the clasped fingers of your right hand in your left palm and vice versa. Once your hands are dry, they are now safe.
Our children are our future, and they need to be protected, especially from all forms of abuse. If you feel like you need help to do that, then ask for it. Entities like the Child Protection and Family Services Agency can be of service.
According to global reports, children now face greater risk of abuse because they spend more unsupervised and unstructured time at home due to COVID-19 restrictions. Their contact with trusted adults outside the home, such as guidance counselors, teachers, and mentors, is reduced. And this gives them fewer opportunities to report instances of abuse. Did you know that right here in Jamaica, over 1,000 cases of sexual abuse were reported to the National Children's Registry between January and June 2020? After being reduced to 82 for April, the reports rose to 119 in May and further increased to 228 in June. It's no wonder that agencies such as the Child Protection and Family Services Agency are taking steps to foster increased awareness on how parents, guardians, and community members can safeguard their children against abuse.
Today we are in Yalos on one of our regular sensitization sessions. But because of COVID, we have taken a different form. So we take the form of a motorcade or a drive-through. So we are driving to a couple of communities today and we are sensitizing them about child protection and that every child deserves protection.
According to the regional director, St. Thomas is among the parishes that CPFSA has been alerted to a noticeable increase in cases of child abuse. As a result, several of its children's officers, along with representatives from the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, CISOCA, were in the parish on July 16. They were there to engage citizens and distribute brochures and flyers, encouraging them to report child abuse.
We are going to RTEs, we are going to Friendship Pen, we're now in Albion, West Albion, and we'll be going to a couple other communities, and we're saying, keeping the message simple. Child protection is everybody's business. You all need to get involved, and we want them to know how to report, where we are, how to get to us. So we're doing stops as well, and we're engaging community members because we can't, because of COVID and the onset of COVID, we can't just stop sensitizing people because child protection is very important.
He says citizens are being encouraged to learn about some of the things that constitute sexual, emotional, and physical abuse. They must also be aware of the mechanisms that child predators use to lure their victims, such as threats and offering of gifts. It's worth knowing that predators don't always start with doing something overwhelming. Instead, they may engage in touching, grooming, and overexposure. They may show them porn, and over time, this grooming desensitizes the child from realizing that something is not right. Parents, caregivers, and community members are being encouraged to closely monitor individuals with whom children spend their time. Persons should identify and speak out about potentially dangerous situations and report known or suspected cases of abuse by calling 888-PROTECT or contacting the nearest CPFSA regional office in their parish.
So we're here, we're making a statement to that. We're here, CPFSA is here, and we'll continue to make ourselves available, and we'll continue to sensitize communities because it is within the communities that sometimes these abuse happen.
Along with all our problems, I believe nothing wrong with Jamaica. The God fixed it, what is right. Oh, I believe. And regardless of our struggles, we can rise again. Oh, I believe. Others believe in us, but we must also sing. Oh, I believe. I believe that we can make a change and spread a belief of hope across our country. I believe that we can join our hands and make a difference in Jamaica. I believe. I believe. The steam in every paper, X in every classroom. I believe. Oh, priests in all our churches, God in all our homes. I believe. It's time to claim our nation and start a reformation. I believe. I believe that we can make a change and spread a belief of hope across our country. I believe that we can join our hands and make a difference in Jamaica. I believe that we can make a change and spread a belief of hope across our country. I believe that we can join our hands and make a difference in Jamaica. I believe. I believe. I believe.
This is where the magazine ends for today, but if you would like to see more content like this, then visit our YouTube page. We also have all the latest news and updates on our social media pages and our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Sandra Johnson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.